In the late 19th century, much of Africa was carved up and colonized by European powers. Ethiopia, however, remained one of the few African countries to maintain its independence. But in 1896, Italy, seeking to expand its colonial empire, launched an invasion of Ethiopia. What followed was a battle that would go down in history as one of the most significant victories against European colonialism in Africa, the Battle of Adwa. Background of the conflict. Ethiopia has a long history of resisting foreign invasion and colonization. The country's strategic location on the Horn of Africa made it a target for various empires and kingdoms throughout history. However, Ethiopia's unique geography, culture, and political organization allowed it to maintain its independence and sovereignty. One of Ethiopia's most famous historical figures is Emperor Tewodros II, who ruled from 1855 to 1868. Tewodros sought to modernize Ethiopia and resist foreign influence, including from Britain, which he perceived as a threat to his sovereignty. This led to a conflict known as the British Expedition to Abyssinia, which ended in Tewodros' defeat and death. Another significant figure in Ethiopian history is Emperor Johannes IV, who ruled from 1872 to 1889. Johannes faced challenges from European powers seeking to establish a foothold in Ethiopia. He resisted the encroachment of Egyptian and Sudanese forces, as well as the Italian attempt to establish a protectorate over Ethiopia. Italy's ambitions to expand its colonial empire. Italy had been seeking to expand its colonial empire since the late 19th century. It had already established colonies in Eritrea and Somalia, and sought to extend its influence into Ethiopia as well. The Italian government saw Ethiopia as a potential source of raw materials and a market for Italian goods. Additionally, Italy sought to establish a colonial foothold in East Africa in order to compete with other European powers and to enhance its status as a great power. In 1889, Italy and Ethiopia signed the Treaty of Wuchale, which established the borders between the two countries and granted Italy the right to provide advice and direction to Ethiopia's foreign affairs. However, there was a disagreement over the Empiric and Italian versions of the treaty, with the Empiric version stating that Ethiopia retained its sovereignty and the Italian version giving Italy control over Ethiopia's foreign policy. Italy used this dispute as a pretext to launch an invasion of Ethiopia in 1895. Italy's goal was to establish a protectorate over Ethiopia and to force Emperor Menelik II to accept Italian suzerainty. Emperor Menelik II, who ruled Ethiopia from 1889 to 1913, was a formidable leader who had already defeated several rebellions and challenges to his rule. Menelik recognized the threat posed by Italy's invasion and began to prepare for war. He formed alliances with other Ethiopian leaders and tribes and modernized the Ethiopian army by purchasing weapons and training soldiers. Menelik also sought to negotiate a peaceful resolution to the conflict, but when Italy refused to back down, he declared war on Italy in December 1895. The Battle of Adwa, which took place on March 1, 1896, was the culmination of this conflict. The Battle of Adwa. Italy's invasion of Ethiopia was led by General Oreste Baradieri, who had a force of about 20,000 soldiers at his disposal. The Italian army was well equipped with modern weapons, including artillery, and had the advantage of superior logistics and communications. Baradieri's plan was to divide his forces and attack Ethiopia from several directions, with the goal of capturing the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa. Emperor Menelik II had mobilized an army of about 100,000 soldiers, including a significant number of cavalry. Menelik's army was armed with a mix of modern weapons and traditional weapons, including spears and swords. Menelik's strategy was to use the rugged terrain and his knowledge of the local geography to his advantage. He also ordered his troops to dig trenches and fortify their positions. The Battle. The Battle of Adwa began on the morning of March 1, 1896. The Italian army advanced towards Ethiopian positions, but soon encountered fierce resistance. The Ethiopians had prepared well, and their trenches and fortifications made it difficult for the Italians to advance. Additionally, the Ethiopian cavalry, led by Ras Makanan, launched several successful attacks against the Italian flanks. After several hours of intense fighting, the Italian army began to retreat. Baradieri attempted to rally his troops, but was eventually forced to order a full retreat. The Ethiopian army pursued the retreating Italians, inflicting heavy losses and capturing large quantities of weapons and equipment. Significance of the Battle of Adwa. The Battle of Adwa was a significant event in Ethiopian history, as it marked the first time that an African army had defeated a European colonial power. The victory was a source of national pride for Ethiopians and helped to cement Menelik II's position as a powerful and respected leader. The battle also had broader significance, as it challenged the idea of European racial superiority and colonialism. The defeat of the European power by an African army was a major blow to European prestige and contributed to a growing sense of African nationalism and anti-colonialism. The Battle of Adwa also had important implications for Italy's colonial ambitions in Africa. The defeat was a major setback for Italy's colonial project and forced the Italian government to reconsider its approach to colonialism in Africa. Additionally, the defeat was a factor in Italy's decision to align with Germany and Austria-Hungary in the lead-up to World War I. The Battle of Adwa had a profound impact on Ethiopia and the broader African continent, and its legacy can still be felt today.